The final Esports World Cup Opens just ended, and 80 teams qualified to compete this weekend for some of the last spots in the LAN tournament that's happening very soon. And we're watching this game from Clix, a huge win that he got with his new duo Veno, who he competed with back in Chapter 6. They're going to drop 17 eliminations, and they qualified for this weekend, but they also have not qualified for the LAN tournament just yet, which will happen in Paris later this August. Now, this is one of his best games from the Open, 17 kill win with Veno. They are looking very locked in. If you guys did not remember, Clix split up with his duo Higgs after multiple seasons of competing with him, and he's going back to compete with Veno, who he competed with back in Chapter 6, and they did pretty well, and they're looking to run it back this FNCS as well as in the Esports World Cup Finals. They're trying to secure that final spot. They were originally coached by Tezzy, but there is some drama between Veno and Clix's former coach BloodX. And BloodX finally fired back by leaking some Snapchat conversations where Veno was asking BloodX to coach them instead of Tezzy. It's a little bit messy, but basically after he saw this conversation happen behind his back, Tezzy took Clix and Veno out of his bio. So he's not going to be coaching them either. They now have no coach at all going into this weekend. We'll see if they end up finding somebody. However, Veno is a fantastic IGL. He has a lot of strats. It's not the end of the world for them. It's not like they absolutely need a coach for this weekend, but sometimes a coach can help. This is their last chance, though, to qualify for the Esports World Cup Finals. There have been 4 qualifiers so far. This is the final one before the Paris LAN. The top 80 teams from the Opens have all been randomly placed in 4 different heats, and the top 5 teams from each heat will advance to the finals. So we're going to go over some of the most notable NA teams that will be competing in each heat. In Heat 1, we have, of course, Acorn and Bolts. They came first overall between day 1 and day 2 of Opens. They had over 1,000 points with 19 games played, and 5 of them ending in a victory royale. They also had a total of 221 eliminations, and although in Opens only 10 of those kills count in points, they have a cap on how many points you can get from elims. That way people aren't just farming people out of the sky infinitely, because this is a reload tournament. Higgs and Curve also got 4 wins in the Opens, but they weren't very consistent throughout the tournament. You know, Higgs and Clix split up, Veno and Curve split up, and they each matched up with each other's old duo. So it'll be interesting to see which duo comes out on top this weekend. Curve had an insane performance with the most eliminations and most damage to players throughout the Opens, which is crazy considering he's also on controller. I think he's definitely liking the new aim assist settings that they added this season. Both of those teams are contested at their drop spots, so we'll have to see if this hurts their chances of making out of Heat 1 or if they'll be able to lock in and win off the drop. In Heat 2, we have Scare and Queasy. Queasy is one of the most decorated pros from EU, and now he's made his way to NA to try to qualify for the LAN with Scare. They've won 4 of their first 7 games and finished in 2nd place with 932 points. If Queasy comes to NA and wins his first major tournament, it's not going to be a good look for North America. Of course, we also have Kanata and Victor V, who are sticking together after winning the FNCS on West. Kanata moved back to Central to play with Sphinx in Battle Royale, but in Reload, he is still playing with Victor V. They came 15th in Opens. Heat 2 is one of the hardest heats overall, and they're also contested, so it's going to be a battle for them to make top 5. We've got Agers and Ritual as well in this heat. They're also contested in Heat number 2, and they were on pace to qualify for heats after day 1 of Opens, but they locked in going into day number 2, because in day 2 they finished in 10th overall. This team is expected to get 1 of 2 of the spots for LAN, but they do have some very tough competition. In Heat 3, we have Clix and Veno, who we're watching right now. They were another team who did okay during day 1, but they really stepped it up during day number 2. They won 3 games in a row day 2 and 5 wins overall. They consistently hit the elimination cap every single game, which really helped them climb up the leaderboard, and they outplaced Peter Bot and Poyo and Cold and Rapid. And they were 10 points away from a top 5 finish, which is great considering this duo has not had too much time to play together after coming back as a unit. We also got to mention Kingling and Craze. They are landing near Clix and Veno, and both teams still need to qualify for LAN, so they probably won't go at each other too hard not to grief each other's LAN qualification, but you never know how things will shake out. Kingling and Craze actually finished in 19th in Opens, but they were in 8th place on day number 1, so they didn't have too much to lose in day number 2. Both of these teams are uncontested, and Heat 3 is one of the easier heats on North America, so they're both set up to qualify top 5 and move on to the finals. In heat number 4, we have Bugha and Braids, and this is one of the best tournaments we have ever seen from Bugha this year. They came 4th overall between day 1 and day 2. Bugha's comms while playing have been absolutely fantastic. It's really cool to see him still compete at a very high level after competing since 2018 and winning the World Cup in 2019. To still have the momentum and motivation to play Fortnite and compete at the level that he's playing is amazing to see. He could have a major comeback with Braids and qualify through the heats into the finals. As far as qualifying for LAN, we will have to see. Like I said, there's only 2 spots available, so it is very cutthroat. We also have Enough and Salt, who barely made it through Opens, coming in 77th out of 80 teams who qualified. They did win 4 of their 21 matches, but they weren't always maximizing the elimination points. Enough and Salt aren't contested, but they're landing next to Peterbot and Poyo, which could be a problem for them considering Peterbot and Poyo have already qualified for the LAN spot, so they're kind of just playing for practice at this point. Keep in mind, a lot of these teams are having to fight others who have already qualified and made it through and secured their spot at LAN, so they are playing with nothing to lose, which means they could also grief players that they don't want to qualify or they don't want them to contest or land near them when the LAN happens in Paris. So expect some griefing, expect some drama this weekend. It's gonna get ugly. It always does when it comes to competitive Fortnite. And you might wonder where Reet and Cooper are. Well, they decided to play on West for this final qualifier, but also they still need to secure their LAN spot. It's going to be harder for them because there's only 1 spot left for NA West, so they have to win the whole tournament. And unfortunately for Bucky, he did not make it through Opens after dropping Zen. We're also missing some pretty big names on EU, like Mongrel and Hijo, Akira and Kurama, the controller duo from the Summit LAN, and Mr. Savage and Velo. They needed top 80, but all 4 of these teams fell short to qualify for this weekend. Clix is absolutely cleaning up right here. He has 8 of the 9 eliminations between him and Veno. And I know Veno can frag out, but Clix is doing such a good job here just securing all these elims. So the finals for qualifier 4 is happening this Sunday, June 28th. I'm going to be traveling, so I'm not going to be able to watch it live, but I'll be sure to cover it after the fact and give you guys the update of what goes down this weekend. Only the top 2 teams from NA Central will qualify for the LAN in Paris. But some teams, of course, already qualified their spot, and if those teams finish in the top 2, 3rd and 4th place have a chance to qualify as well, assuming 1st and 2nd place have already qualified. 3 teams will qualify out from Europe. They are a bigger region, so they have 1 more slot compared to NA Central. This tournament has been building up for this entire year for the qualifiers that started at the beginning of the year, so it's kind of cool to see it all shake out. And it's going to be a huge tournament in Paris. I'm sure it's going to be a huge production. The Esports World Cup qualifiers are insane. There's always a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of other games that are also competing in the Esports World Cup. So it's cool to see Fortnite come back on the main stage, because the first time they actually did a Esports World Cup for Fortnite, it was kind of like a creative, like capture the flag, team deathmatch kind of setup, which was cool to see, but it didn't really land that well with the audience. So to see them compete in Reload, which is something that people are a lot more familiar with, it's going to be a lot of fun, similar to how the Pro AM was also a Reload tournament. Look at this guy get caught, manages to slip out. Clix and Veno, 10 eliminations going into this end game. I kind of want to see how they handle this end game as a team, because they're about to get 7 more eliminations and the win. We'll watch from Clix's POV because he has all the elims on the board right now. Now, Veno is a fantastic IGL. We saw him employ some insane strats last FNCS on North America, which he did win, by the way. He won with Curve. He didn't do that well in the Summit LAN. He got kind of surprise contested at Battlewood Boulevards, and he died off spawn quite a few times or spent too much time in Storm. So it didn't go his way, but Veno is a professional. He knows that not every single tournament's going to go his way. And I think him and Clix have the maturity and the experience to do extremely well as a duo. They just need to, stick together, trust the process, manage expectations, especially as they kind of get back into shape together as a duo after not playing together for a few seasons. But yeah, this should be a very interesting duo to watch. I really do hope they qualify for the LAN. I feel like a LAN tournament without Clix is just not as exciting. He has that presence, that brand awareness. A lot of people love watching him compete. Even though he hasn't won an FNCS, people are still rooting for him to win something. And while this isn't an FNCS, it would be a huge win for his credentials and for his career. So right now they're on the low ground, 11 eliminations. There is 27 players left. It's a pretty stacked lobby. There's a lot of big names still alive in this lobby. They're looking for a refresh. They're going to use the overdrive nade in the box to get the speed boost and infinite stamina. Storm is actually pulling behind them, so not a lot of rotation needed. Now they're kind of looking up, getting some intel, still looking for a refresh before they commit to like holding high ground. You can see them gathering info right now. They're looking up at the high ground. Clix has the Mammoth pistol and a gold Sentinel shotgun. So very high skill loadout right here. He's looking for a shot on the high ground, looking for maybe a headshot with the Mammoth. Here comes the rotation. High ground's looking down at them, putting pressure. Right here, Clix gets caught. But look how aggressive he is. Even though he got cracked for over 100 shield, he's still putting some pressure back on those players. With the fizz and the overdrive nade, you can really get up on high ground very quickly. And it looks like they might be going for a high ground play here. I see him fizzing. No, they're just fizzing to staying ahead. I'm assuming they don't want to contest height until they have at least another refresh, or a knock on height would be ideal. Oh, there it is right there. I don't know how that guy just came falling down. I think Veno shot him out. Now they got the knock. They have the green light to go for height. Clix goes up. Veno secures the tarp. And now Clix is going to be spamming with this Mammoth pistol. Probably not the greatest gun to apply pressure from the high ground, since it's just like he has to reload after every single shot. But he's doing what he can. At least he can one-shot some of these builds as they get placed to get some players off position. Someone just contested him and they are shooting him out, but Clix chops this player down, does a great job not going down here. Oh my god, he's in a terrible spot, but catches Sky. Oh my goodness, what was that? Refresh right there. Veno is back. I actually don't know what Veno was doing this whole time, but now they're together. They play really well as a duo, but also they can come in together once things get shaky. Cleaning up, holding this high ground. That really could have gone bad. This game could have easily ended with both of them dying right there, but Clix hits a huge shot. Oh, look at that. Was that a pre-edit right there from Veno? I think he just called out a pre-edit, drops down, catches that duo. There's a huge refresh for them, but Clix is not gonna be able to grab the mats. He doesn't really need to. Veno's in there. Veno gets knocked. Now it's just Clix for the 1v1. Actually gets tagged up right here. Only a few builds left. I want to see how Clix does this. Misses a big shot. Still has height. The other player doesn't seem to have mats either. Clix takes some damage and hits the Mammoth pistol shot. That is not an easy shot to hit under pressure. 17 elimination win for Clix and Veno. They qualified. They'll be competing this Sunday. Hopefully they're able to secure a LAN spot and make it out of the heats. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.